I'm here in my home frozen studio. My heater went out, and so I got a guy thumping around up in the attic. Anyway, I want you guys to see this because this is the real news. You got to watch this to see if we can get Lindsey's talking about. He's getting picked on here because of his comments about Vindman. But listen to what he says. This is quite heartwarming when you hear it.
You know what I think?
What do you think? Come on, hold it.
Agenda during the investigation of President Trump, and they acted on it. I think CIA operatives have been out to try to get the president since he was elected. I think there are people in uniform that can't accept this result. I appreciate Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's service.
Wait a second. I got to get some more volume here. You guys can't hardly hear that, can you?
Doesn't mean you can.
Did you hear what he said?
Political agenda during the investigation of President Trump, and they acted on it. I think CIA operatives have been out to try to get the president since he was elected.
FBI and CIA.
I think there are people in uniform that can't accept this result. I appreciate Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's service. But to the general, thank you for that nice compliment. Because you wear the uniform doesn't mean you're exempt from being asked questions. Did he know the whistleblower? Was there a member of Schiff's staff that was a friend of the whistleblower? Had these guys been planning for years a way to try to take this president down? I can tell you there were operatives in the CIA, the FBI, and the Department of Justice that took the law in their own hands. And when a military officer engages in a political bias in uniform, they need to be held accountable. I don't know if that happened, but I'm not going to be deterred from asking this question. You're not going to drive me away. You tried to drive us away from looking at the FBI. Mm-hmm. You told us everything was fine with the FISA warrant. You're not going to drive me away from asking questions about the whistleblower.
Yeah, baby. I'm telling you, man, that is crazy. You listen to what he said, even though I had to do a retake on it. He's saying the FBI and the CIA, which is, let's go all the way back. This is what Trump said. Remember that when his buddy up there, Chucky Schumer, said, I wouldn't go there if I was you. They have 100 ways from Sunday they can get back at you. Basically, a senator saying he wouldn't touch the intelligence community. He wouldn't pick a fight with them. They could screw with you. Trump didn't know any better because he's a wrecking ball. Trump is not a politician. He is a Reformation wrecking ball. Pray to God we catch it while he's still there wrecking stuff. So the truth is the CIA under Brennan was after Trump. The intelligence services with Clapper and Comey in collusion were after Trump. The FISA warrants were illegally tampered with in order to justify spying. Now, here are the key players. Lindsey Graham, one guy like that. And I think he got himself sufficiently nosed out of joint when the Senate got involved with the impeachment. And he started realizing how they were getting jerked around. Him and McConnell talked about it. And I think they decided that they're going to play hardball back. And they're going, Biden's cooked anyway. I mean, he just left New Hampshire today. You know why he's going to do so poorly? He's just putting all his chips into the Carolina. So he's done. But unfortunately, Joe, his son, and Ukraine is going to continue to be exposed. And it will work to the unraveling of the Democratic Party in terms of credibility. Who's going to be the winner from that? Well, Bloomberg will come as the outsider. Mayor Pete will come along and make believe he's kind of a moderate reformer. And Sanders is the winner because Sanders is the other populist. He's like the Antichrist to Jesus Christ. He's the communist to Trump's populism on the other side with capitalism. So the important thing is that when Durham comes out with his criminal probe information, watch what happens when that combines with William Barr's decision on who to go after, who to bring up before the hill, and who to interrogate. That's going to fall right on top of the conventions for both parties, and we're going to become right around to the election cycle. Now, what America has to have, it has to have this. It has to have justice done. I watched Bill Maher with, if you get a chance to, I never watch Bill Maher unless I have to, because And every now and then, like I'll be on his goofball program because they're trafficking with Trump conspiracy, Cyrus stuff, and I'll see my face up there. But the thing is shocking is the extent to which the left is totally drunk the blue Kool-Aid, and they are so completely intoxicated with the narrative that Donald Trump is a crook who worked with collusion with Russia. They actually believe the Russian collusion story. You talk about out to lunch. They actually believe it. They believe that that there's nothing going to be discovered in the Ukraine that has corruption attached to it, which begs the question as to why is it that and you're an intelligent group. I don't have to repeat for you the bizarreness of Biden firing the prosecutor, but the who was investigating Burisma, who was employing his son. But what's really odd is I didn't realize that Ukraine was leading the list of all nations making multi-million-dollar donations to the Clinton Foundation. So evidently this has been a watering trough for politicians in Washington for a long time. And so this has got to come out. What I'm saying is there has to be, you got good people like Michael Flynn. You have nobodies like, what's his name, who you know who I'm talking about. It's the guy, he's in the news cycle today because Barr just came out with the Justice Department, so they were going to mitigate his sentence because they felt 9 years was extreme. Roger, yeah. So what's going to be happening next is going to be the necessity of some evidence of reformation in these corrupt institutions, which isn't going to be easy because the Democrats get back in. You're going to see a seal put upon this whole process very quickly. But Flynn was wrongly dealt with. Roger Stone was overly severely and swiftly dealt with, right on down to a commando raid with him and his deaf wife, and he's sitting almost, in a "I'm ready for you" T-shirt, and they have people with guns drawn. Meanwhile, you've got the intelligence services that ran rogue to try to unseat the president of the United States, still working as commentators on CNN and MSNBC. So that has to be rectified, or the purpose of real credibility in our institutions is lost. And it's not just lost. I mean, the left is already cooked. Their brains are fried, at least the left represented by Bill Maher. I mean, I'm not worried about them. They're nutty to begin with. They're like the people you want to keep out away from the cabin crew and the cockpit and let them just drink their pina coladas. Well, you don't have pina coladas on a plane. Just keep them away from the cockpit. But what does bother me is when you've got 25 to 35 million new people engaged in the battle in the United States. And I'm talking about that group that specifically has been following along for the last 5 or 6 years with increasing interest from the charismatic Pentecostal Christian and pro-life Catholic community. And they're actually part of the core Trump constituency. They're like 83% in unity behind Trump, and they represent 20 million of the Republican Party voters, almost 50% of the party. So nobody talks about this, but I mean, we are a sizable group. And the whole credibility of our belief in the government and belief in the credibility of the institutions, that's the group that you don't want to disappoint, because most of us came from believing into being shocked and discovering what's happening to America. Now we have to see reformation take place. Trump isn't a politician. Trump is a movement, and he's a reformation wrecking ball. And I'm sorry to say that although 83% of the evangelicals and pro-life Catholics get it, I'm not so sure that represents the leaders. I think a lot of the leaders don't get it. A lot of the Christian leaders don't. However, I'm encouraged by the numbers that are becoming more bold and more vocal daily. And I think that there's hope. I think that there's a tipping point that's coming, which is that the Christianity Today's and the nut jobs at Newsweek and Time that trot out some supposed defector from the evangelicals who can't vote for Trump. Then you find out that they're all funded by the left in the first place, and they weren't even real evangelicals to start with. So it is coming down to a spiritual battle. That's the main thing that I don't want you to lose track of. I think it's interesting that all the accusers of Donald Trump that came out against him were from the State Department. They were all friends with former CIA Director Brennan. They were all Obama appointments that Brennan approved. And so what you have is the deep state getting purged. And there's going to be another cycle. I promise you, there'll be more. But it's waiting. And what's it waiting for? It's waiting for Donald Trump's next outrageous gaffe. You know, he made the phone call to the Ukraine, and he said, you know, I want you guys to look into this. And it is corrupt, and he picks a fight almost like a prophetic provocateur. He kicks over the hornet's nest, only to find out later on that we needed to kick it over, and he was right on his instincts, even if he was not elegant in his execution. And so they're waiting for Trump's next Ukraine call, which means what's the next thing he's going to step into? He will, as we know. And I did a Facebook broadcast on the prayer breakfast because I had to say it was worth the front row seat to watch the president at what would be his third? Is it his third prayer breakfast? I think so, maybe the fourth. But he just finished his third year in office, so I guess it was his third. But anyway, so Arthur Brooks gets up, and Arthur Brooks is a Harvard guy, and they picked the guy this year who at least is likable. Last year, I don't want to say anything bad. I'm just saying it was depressing because the subject was, I don't know, sex slave trafficking or something like that, and the person kept talking about how torn and divided America was. It wasn't very edifying for the president. This year, the president just came in with his acquittal. I've been acquitted newspaper headlines, and goes marching around the platform with it, much to Nancy Pelosi's chagrin. And then after Arthur Brooks gets done talking about the love that Jesus mandated is to love, and that we're to love our enemies, Donald Trump says, I don't know if I agree with that, Arthur. He literally, Arthur's quoting Jesus. And Donald Trump gets up and says, I don't know if I agree with that, which right away has all the religious liberals. He doesn't agree with Jesus. But actually, he was absolutely right. And what he was saying is, I don't know that I agree with the fact that that we are supposed to like those people who have done malice to us. And I think it would be great for Arthur and his next teaching in front of people that he should assume don't know the Lord that well or are young in their faith, make the distinction between forgiveness and justice, that you may forgive somebody for what they have done in stealing your family's inheritance, but that doesn't mean that you don't get the stolen goods back. So that the purpose of justice is different than the purpose of forgiveness. Forgiveness releases the personal aspect towards the offender, but it doesn't rewrite the history of the offense. It still is a crime. And Trump is listening to guys like this who are saying, we have to love everybody. So Trump just got up and said, look, I apologize. I don't know how you can like people who are actually going to be working for your demise. And he said, I'm just not there yet. I'm trying. In other words, he's even trying. He thinks that's what a Christian is, someone who loves their enemies in the sense of having this affection for the rapist. It's not an affection for the rapist. It is a suspension of ill will and a desire for their highest good, which would come with repentance, which would come with a change. It's not an endorsement of what they did. It's not an endorsement of what they're doing. It is a releasing of your own heart from the animus and the pain and the revenge, which is natural to human nature when an injustice is done. So if justice and mercy are the foundation of God's throne, then Christians ought to get this straight. The fact that we forgive our enemies doesn't mean that we like what they're doing, or we approve of what they're doing, or we have an affection for them in the moment in their demonic alignment. But you can have a love for somebody that's willing to lay down your life, and it's not based upon suspending judgment or justice on what they've done. Does that make sense? Because if that doesn't make sense, then when Jesus ultimately has to become the judge on the throne of the universe, and the Bible closes out with the living and the dead standing before him, he is not going to say, I love you, I always loved you, I forgave you, I forgive you, come, enter into the joy of your Lord. He actually is going to say, depart from me, you that work iniquity, I never knew you. So there's a departing or an entering. Based on what? Not on the love of God or the forgiveness of God, but based upon the ability of God to release people from consequence based on his justice. And the only justice that works is the cross and the price that Jesus paid on behalf of sinners. Father, forgive them. They don't have a clue what they're talking about and don't know what they're doing. You can say that because Jesus said that. You don't say, Father, forgive them. They're brilliant and I love them. Actually, it's Father, forgive them. They don't know what the heck they're talking about. That's how you have to deal with the crazies. Does that make sense? That may not be perfectly put, but that's just the way it is, Tiger. So anyway, the president, true to his natural disposition of not being capable of a religious bone in his body, gets up and shocks the prayer breakfast by contradicting the speaker, saying, I don't agree with that. The guy's quoting Jesus, and I think Jesus doesn't agree with having his teaching not applied properly. And the president goes on to say these people there's people that are they're out to do destruction. But I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to like him, and so God bless him. He's trying to do the impossible, but someone should help him out. And clearly, there's a wounding there. I could tell you there was a wounding. And I would tell you if it was otherwise. I mean, I'm a real Trump fan, as you know, but I'm not in any way misguided in terms of my discernment of where he's at and his condition. And clearly, he's walking with a limp right now, which tells you the psychological, emotional, physiologic, and spiritual toll of being lied about, betrayed, hated, misrepresented, and coming within maybe half a dozen votes of having your whole mission in life that you paid the highest price for pulled out from under you by the corrupt and maniacal manipulations of lawyers, media, and corrupt politicians. I mean, that's enough to make a righteous man mad, let alone a rough Philistine slayer like Samson Trump stumble. So he is recovering. He's a recovering victim of 3 years, but that means that there's a turn in the corner that's happening right now, which is why I played Lindsey Graham for you. Keep your eye on the prize because Lindsey is saying, "Hey man, we're coming, and there's gonna be answers. We're gonna require it." And so, and you know what's great about this is it works both ways. The same way that the media mischief is confusing people all over the country with their left-wing news, their blue news bubbles. And as they're plugged in, don't get the truth. They just get more like the coronavirus. It's just a mental virus gets into them. The interesting thing is that Hannity every now and then brings Lindsey Graham on. And I'll tell you something I noticed with Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham that is most curious. They've never been exposed to popular endorsement. They're politicians. They know what it's like to have an enthusiastic crowd. But you have no idea. When they do it right, when they stand behind a Supreme Court justice, when Lindsey Graham gave his little speech there to Kavanaugh, if you come to town looking for a fair deal, you came to the wrong town at the wrong time. And man, suddenly he got 2 million responses in his inbox in that little Senate office. Senator, it's overwhelming. What? 2 million. You see, I watched McConnell once get a standing ovation at the Values Voters. Well, Mitch, it's kind of hard to get excited. And they don't call him the turtle for nothing. It's not respectful, but that's what they call him. And he's sitting there, we're going to get our Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh confirmed. Boy, you get that in front of the Red Meat Values Voters Summit Christians. They're on their feet. Wah! And he's like, oh. And it's real funny because he kind of smiles. His cheeks get real red. He's looking around like blink, blink, blink. Oh, wow. He's just soaking him. That's the Trump phenomenon. Trump has created the populist rally. And when you hit it and you speak for us and you do your job, you get a sudden adrenaline surge in your ratings, and your office gets the psychic love taps it needs to be able to go, wow. Hey. So Hannity every now and then will put, if Lindsey starts to even look, it cracks me up. You ever notice, like if Lindsey looks a little bit like he might be drifting a little bit in uncertainty regarding bringing witnesses up or what's happening, Sean Hannity gets right on that because, man, 24 hours a day, that guy's an Irish pub pit bull. I'm sorry, he really is. It's like he'll just go at you. And so he has. While we try to get in touch with Senator Lindsey Graham, he couldn't make it tonight, but we're hoping to be with us tomorrow night. And it's like, whoa! All of a sudden, that call is going to Lindsey's office. You going on? You better go on, Liz. And he goes on, and he kind of straightens it out. Wait a second. I think I've got a knock on the door. Well, I'm going to have to head out. I believe another appointment is here coming in, but keep connected, keep posted, and I'm going to try to keep in touch with you guys on the famous Periscopian channel. We're seeing history made right now from Iran all the way to the Ukraine, and I was listening to one comedian say that Ukraine didn't work out, so now they're going to focus on Spain. Expect Spain to be the next problem that Trump has with a phone call. Anyway, I'll be talking to you guys soon. God bless you.
Hi, I'm Lance Wallnau, but you already know that. Did you know that you can subscribe, however? You just push that button right there or over there and ding. Now we're connected. Look forward to seeing you soon.